Welcome to the React Progress Button tutorial. The Syncfusion React Progress Button is used to show the progress of the button action. Look at this download button. The progress shown lets you estimate how long the action will take to complete. In this video, I will show you how to create a React app and add the Syncfusion React Progress Button component, which has built-in features to customize the icon and spinner positions. I will also show you how to animate the button content and spinner. Before proceeding, make sure you have installed the latest versions of Node.js and React. I'll be using Visual Studio Code as my editor and showing the output in the Chrome browser. First, I open Visual Studio Code and create a new application using the npx create React app command. I name it my React app. Since I want to create the app with TypeScript, I add the template TypeScript. Next, I navigate to the newly created React app. To use the Progress Button component, I type the npm install at Syncfusion /ej2 React split buttons -- save command to install the package. Before using a Syncfusion component, I need to register a trial license key. I open the index.tsx file and import the register license method from the Syncfusion ej2 base package. Using this method, I register the trial license key. For instructions on how to generate a trial key, refer to the link in the description for this video. Next, I open the app.tsx file and remove the default code snippets. I import the Progress Button component from the Syncfusion ej2 React Split Buttons package. Next, in the app.css file, I import the material theme reference to add CSS styles to the Progress Button component. I also add dependent CSS references like buttons and pop-ups. Then I navigate to the app.tsx file and add the Progress Button component tag with the content download. To align the component, I add the text align and padding top CSS styles in the app.css file. I save the changes and run the application using the npm start command. The Progress Button is rendered with the provided content. And when I click the button, the spinner is shown. To change the button type to primary, I set the isPrimary property to true. By default, it is set as false. You can see the primary Progress Button type has a pink background. When I click the button, the spinner is positioned at the left side of the text content. I can also position the spinner at the right, top, or bottom. To demonstrate, I define an object named SpinSettings with the type SpinSettingsModel. To use this type, I need to import it from the ej2 React Split Buttons package. Now I will position the spinner at the right by setting the position property to right and set the width property with a custom value. I then assign this object to the SpinSettings property of the Progress Button tag. Now, when I click the Progress Button, the spinner is positioned on the right side of the text content with the custom width. Next, I will show you how to set a custom spinner style using the template property. Within the SpinSettings object, I define the template property and add a division element with a class template. To this template class, I add a few CSS styles like border, border style, border radius, an animation effect using the keyframes rule. See, when I click the Progress Button, the custom spinner is shown with the animation effect. Next, I will show you how to apply animation to the progress button content. The React Progress Button supports 7 different animation effects: slide left, slide right, slide up, slide down, and so on. I want to slide the button content up when the button is clicked. So I define the animation settings object with a type animation settings model. To use this type, I need to import it from the J2 React Split Buttons package. Within this object, I set the effect to slide up. I also set the duration and easing properties with the appropriate values. I then assign this object to the animation settings property. Looking at the progress button now, the content moves upward of the button. Next, to set an icon to this download button, in the progress button tag, I add the icon CSS property and assign the classes eBTNSBIcons and eDownloadIcon. In the app CSS file, I define a font face with a specific source path and name to start accessing the download font icon at the application level. Then, for these class names assigned to the icon CSS property, I assign the appropriate content value to access the download font icon and add the required styles. See, the progress button is now displayed with the download icon. By default, the icon is positioned on the left side of the progress button. If you want to customize the icon position, use the icon position property. Apart from the default left position, it can also be displayed at the top, right, and bottom. I set the icon position property to right. See, now the icon is positioned on the right side. Finally, I will show you how to change the button content during the progress state. I will retain the content, icon CSS, and icon position properties, and remove all other properties from the progress button for better clarity. I would like to show the download progress on the button. So I will hide the spinner by setting the eHideSpinner class to the CSS class property. Then, to show progress in the button, I set the enable progress to true. Next, I change the button text during progress. For that, I initialize a state variable named state and a callback function named setState using the useState hook. I assign an object to the state variable with the property content and set its initial value to download. To view the changes in the button text, I assign this content property of the state variable to the content property of the progress button. To change the content for the beginning of the progress, I need to use the begin event. So I add the begin event with the event handler begin. Then I define the begin event handler. And within it I make a call to the setState function and set the content to downloading. When I click the progress button, the button content changes to downloading. I use the end event to change the button text to download after the progress completion. I add the end event with the appropriate event handler. Then I define the end event handler, and within it, call the setState function and set the content as download. Look at the progress button now. The button content changes to download after the completion of progress. In this video, I have shown you how to add the Syncfusion React Progress Button component to a React application. I showed you how to set icons in different spinner positions and add events to the Progress Button component. I also showed you how to animate the button content in the Progress Button spinner. If you want to try out the example used in this video, download it from the GitHub link in the description below. I have also shared a link to learn about obtaining a free license key to use our React suite through our community license if you are eligible. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please like and subscribe to our channel.